The United States is limiting the sale of the Raytheon-guided missile systems to Saudi Arabia because Saudi airstrikes are killing civilians in Yemen. The missiles are primarily meant for defensive purposes because they can intercept ballistic missiles and they can also be used to attack targets. But the sales of other weapons will continue. The Obama administration has offered to sell weapons worth $115 billion to Saudi Arabia over the past 8 years, which is unprecedented for any government. Arms sales worth $57 billion are still in the pipeline, including 84 F-15 aircraft that are the most commonly used warplanes in Saudi Arabia's airstrikes on Yemen. Other allies aren't scaling back on their military support. The UK has sold fighter jets, tanks and ammunition worth $3.7 billion to Saudi Arabia since it began bombing Yemen last March. The two countries are also negotiating the sale of the next generation fighter jets. We're going to be joined now by our editor-at-large, Craig Copetas. He's in Paris. Craig, let me ask you about this latest move by the United States. Does it significantly limit Saudi Arabia's ability to continue its bombing campaign in Yemen?
Not really. They still have a heck of a lot of weaponry. What's going on here is that the United States has essentially, it's like giving a 16-year-old kid who doesn't have a driver's license a Ferrari and then going out and refueling the Ferrari. There have been over 10,000 deaths in Yemen that we know of so far. The bombing has been indiscriminate, and the weirdness of this is that these were supposed to be smart weapons. And part of this deal is that, and I think it's the biggest takeaway, Matthew, is that the United States is now revamping the training of the Saudi Air Force, hoping to improve their ability to target sites effectively, because this has just been completely indiscriminate bombing for the past 20 months.
How important is Saudi Arabia as a client of the US arms industry?
It's number one on the list. Saudi is very important, and important to the US too, because these weapons initially were sold as a buffer against the Iranians, and that's now not the case. And there's a cascade effect here that no one's going to like, and that has to do with young Prince Salman, the architect of this Saudi 2030 plan to reduce the kingdom's dependence on oil and create a more diverse economy by 2030. Well, this war in Yemen was his idea, and he's not very popular in the kingdom right now because of this. And now what's happening? The United States is saying, well, we're not going to sell you a heck of a lot more weapons, at least the weapons that you want. This is not going to go down well in Riyadh, no way.
And what about in Washington and in other states in the United States where people have been protesting against the sales of arms? What sort of pressure is the United States under to act ethically here?
The sad reality, Matthew, is domestically they're under no pressure to act with any morality as such, because it's essentially Raytheon and the other big defense companies. They employ hundreds of thousands of people, and the paychecks keep coming. Now, what they're cutting back, the big cutback here is a $350 million order for what they call Raytheon guided munitions kits. Now, these are the kits that you put on a weapon so it hits the right target, which the Saudis haven't been able to do yet. So they're going to keep selling weapons. As you mentioned, $115 billion over the 8 years of the Obama administration, the largest weapons sale in the history of American presidencies. That's a huge amount of weaponry. And the new administration, the Trump administration, is going to be within the proverbial rock and the hard place, because you have young Prince Salman, who's been given enough rope now to hang himself, plus they have to worry about Iran. And guess what? Saudi's the buffer. So what do you do? Well, you can be sure there's going to be more U.S. trainers there trying to show them how to use these weapons effectively.
Okay, Craig Copetas in Paris, thank you for that.